Hello audience, I am Dr. Mercury. I am a great fan of Bioshock. I have played this game before when I was quite young. Maybe not the best thing to do at my age, but it was a real forming experience for me. I have learned the value of creating a contained world and trying to make it as believable and immersive as possible. Even though the story itself is not that long, it is always gripping. It always tries to make you feel what the main character, what Jack would feel. It's a really good experience for anyone interested in video games. A must-buy for sure. And now with the Switch port and the wonders of portability, everything is possible. Even for a doctor with little time, we still have time for that one. So, why Bioshock? Why choose this topic? On this current playthrough, I was stunned by the inclusion of a Medical Pavilion and Dr. Steinman, the cosmetic surgeon, as the main boss. I was stunned by the attention to detail, by the horrific and also really funny enemies and places that you visit in the first area. And I was really surprised by the inclusion of the little sisters and their immense syringes. So as you can see, the medical issues provided by this game are numerous. We see crazy doctors running around the hallways, throwing grenades or chasing you down with a scalpel. We see crazy surgeons trying to reach perfection with their victims by cutting them into thousands of pieces and then showering you with bullets in order to make you their next specimen. And we see a lot of crazy scientists messing with the powers of Adam, this ever-changing substance that molds the flesh. The flesh becomes clay, as Steinman said. All this provides an intrinsic, immersive world in which a doctor can feel truly at home. So the main question remains, why would you build underwater? Well, the really relevant part of this equation is that it proved an escape from the rest of the world. Building an exotic place underwater with a lot of depth, pressure beneath the ocean surface in order to separate itself from the rest of civilization. Knowing our current position, that of isolation during our own pandemic and our own apartment, our own routine in each day, all this sounds quite familiar, doesn't it? Another reason is that of resources, mainly food, energy, especially access to the geothermal energy source related to this area with intense volcanic activity as well. If we look at this map, which placed Rapture's real-life inspiration somewhere around Iceland, not too far off the coast. Rapture is actually placed somewhere 2,200 meters underneath the ocean's surface actually, and this is quite a lot of pressure placed on the outer shell of the actual city. That means a pressure of actually 213 times the normal pressure of the atmosphere. It would actually crush you underneath its weight, underneath its pressure. But all this is not to disconsider the notion completely. Human vessels have undertaken greater stress during interplanetary traffic, and human life has actually survived the journey. So it's not impossible. Even though the theory of such a city's existence is a bit strained, moving the city somewhere a bit more to the east and to the north could actually bring it to lower depths, even though such lower depths would not coincide with the initial isolation motive. It would provide the necessary compromise in order to create such a city with our actual modern technology. But enough about the city. What about human life under these conditions? There's actually one human that's relevant to the story and is relevant to the whole city. His name is written all over it. Andrew Ryan. It sounds familiar, doesn't it? It's not just a fictional character. It's actually a variation on the spelling of Ayn Rand. Ayn Rand, which is the promoter of the philosophy current named Objectivism, and also the author of The Fountainhead, which to my shame haven't read, is the real-life author which inspired the fictional character and also the whole idea of Bioshock in the minds of its creators. Her work and her ideology that man has to think only about himself, he has to put himself before others and have no sense of real community. He has to isolate himself from all this nonsense that's generated communism, democracy, all of this political currents should be expelled outright and never talked about. I'm not gonna go political with all this. My main goal here is to educate you about the effects that living in such a city would have on you, and especially what could you expect from a visit to the Medical Pavilion. So now we reach the main topic of our conversation, the Medical Pavilion, perfect introduction to Rapture. And Dr. Steinman, the first boss, and also a wonderful character, a brilliant surgeon, great ambition, great recommendations, a wonderful life above the surface if you read into his backstory. But also a terrible, terrible human being. But not always so. It's a long path in order to reach hell. So the main spiel of this Steinman character is his ever-growing longing for perfection, for beauty, to provide beauty to his customers. Being a true adept of Ryan, it's not cheap to become his patient. Ryan's take on medcare is that medicine ain't free, and you need to stop asking for handouts if you're living it up in Rapture. Steinman, being Ryan's man, he understands that with great power comes great responsibility. He needs to provide the results which are appropriate to his exorbitant sons. He has this obsession with beauty. So it's not his skills that fail him, it's his lack of imagination. He gradually becomes infatuated with the goddess of beauty, with Aphrodite. Me being Dr. Mercury, after all, you gotta understand I'm really deeply into that Greek and Roman mythology. So, bring in Aphrodite, now we have a conversation. So Aphrodite walks this long hall and she has this conversation with Steinman. What is beauty? Beauty is symmetry. As a neurologist, that resonates a lot with me. We are always checking for symmetry, like comparing the two parts of the face, comparing the upper limbs, comparing the lower body, comparing the eyes, comparing auditory or other kind of stimulus on both sides of the body, the sensibility on different parts of the body, always in parallel, always in symmetry. Aphrodite also provides another answer to Steinman: when to stop, or rather when not to stop. Not ever. Cutting in 1,000 pieces, they are all beautiful to him. Cut, 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 never stop. Leads to another interview, a wonderful interview between doctor and nurse. She just wanted a rhinoplasty, the most common of surgeries in the beauty department. But he just couldn't stop. Why not provide a facelift as well, right? Why stop at the nose? Another great inspiration for Steinman is Picasso. Picasso was apparently mad, if you ask a lot of sources around his life. He became obsessed, much like Steinman, with the idea of beauty, and when humans could no longer provide the necessary stimulus for him, he grew bored. So he chose to combine humans with other kinds of forms, inanimate objects, animals, and just give them this whole crazy combination, which makes him a great genius and the main reason why we appreciate him now, and also a great inspiration for Steinman and his future work. Another wonderful conversation is that between Dan McClintock, Andrew Gall, and Dr. Steinman. He provides great interest towards her case. He's quite attentive, and she, being the neglected young woman, finds this characteristic quite appealing. This kind of dynamic between doctor and patient, however horrible it may sound, is not uncommon. You, as a patient, put your life in another human doctor's hands. So you gotta trust him. And this trust, this connection, this pact of loyalty, of not sharing the patient's troubles with other persons, could be the ground for an attraction. It's not uncommon, but it's the doctor's main responsibility to provide stability and clarity in his presentation towards the patient. And all these interviews, all these little sprinkles of anticipation. Who is Steinman? You fight his cronies, his other doctors, his crazy nurses, his actual army tries to stop you on the halls of the Medical Pavilion. And finally, you reach his sanctuary, the operation room, and you see his masterpieces. That one is not enough. That one, not even close. But you could be his next perfected client. A wonderful, wonderful way of scaring you and making you uneasy and trying to immerse you in this world. And a crazy doctor, well, that's a perfect introduction if you ask me. So, Steinman, he fights you, he tries to shoot you, which was a bit stupid if you ask me. Like, give the surgeon his tools, give him his knives and his scalpels and his saw, and just let him go to work on you. But no, he tried to shoot you down and failed. Of course he did. Another character introduced in the Medical Pavilion is Tenenbaum, das Wunderkind, the Wonder Child, with a total love for science and a total disregard for humanity. Actually, this was her initial take. Now, it's been a long time since I've played the game, so I don't really know what happens to her, but maybe this is not the only episode I'm gonna do about Bioshock. So, her question asked is, if you do horrible things in the name of science, it's not about answering the question, why do you do it, but actually how to do it properly. This is the kind of attitude that doctors in the Nazi regime have used, and there's a great deal of testimony about the kind of experiments, and actually the topic for a lot of horror movies as well. Another thing that Tenenbaum approaches is the genetic experiments of the Germans, trying to reach the perfect Aryan race with elimination of every variant in the human genome. She doesn't want to inherit obsession with race, but what she actually wants to provide power and intelligence, like making the human being better, empowering ourselves, which is maybe why Ryan chose her for the Little Sister project. And now we've reached the psychological element of the Medical Pavilion and this episode. What would isolation, truly being raptured from the rest of the world, what would we become? What if the pandemic never stopped? and actually got worse and made us all into solitary parasites inside our own homes. Would we all become splicers? It's not unheard of. Human interaction is the principle on which babies learn. Keep a baby locked inside a house, he will just become a boring person as an adult. He needs to play, he needs to interact with other children, he needs to have an adult teach him what's good and what's wrong. And that's why being exposed to the same persons over and over again would actually make you a worse person, a stupider person, or even insane. So splicers are a result of many factors. Adam has side effects, but also the great pressure of living underwater, but also isolation. Isolation is a psychiatric factor which limits our own growth and limits our evolution. Adam. It's not talked about a lot during this intro. In order to provide something for the next episodes as well, I'm gonna leave everything else about it and just talk about this small sample. It provides the answer to the question, what if our human body would have no limits? Like Steinman said, a new tool provides new responsibilities. The only ceiling of this responsibility is our own imagination. It would be a power in generating whatever we wanted, but also a curse of omnipotent change in the hands of man. That's why Adam and Ryan and Adam work together, because Ryan has this God complex. He has this complex because the tool needed was provided to him. They coexist. They can give you the choice of changing your look, changing your sex, changing your race. Not limited to one, you can pick anyone and everyone. And that's why Andrew Ryan's personal pitch to you, the player, is so enticing. What if you shouldn't be afraid anymore? Not afraid of war, of rules, of the government, of an infectious disease, of the rest of the world. That kind of personal pitch is what was generated from Ayn Rand, the book that inspired the game developers to create this world. A free ecosystem for the free-minded. In theory, a good thing. The scientist, myself, would not be bound by petty morality. It would sound like unlimited research without concerns for consequences. I was Dr. Mercury. I thank you very much for watching this video. If you love Bioshock, if you are interested in medical facts, if you just want to have fun seeing a doctor try to explain random trivia from fiction, from his real-life cases, occasionally from books and movies that he just found interesting and wanted to talk about, I do invite you all to like the video, subscribe for more, and keep on watching because I'm gonna make them happen some more. I'm having a blast doing videos such as this one. Thank you. I have been Dr. Mercury. Peace.